I love Daphne du Maurier, that's no secret, and she's actually my favorite novelist of all time. And The Du Mauriers is my last of her novels I need to read. Now, I say novel. It is technically written like a novel, but it's also a biography of her family, and it's such a unique creation. That's not to say there aren't other biographies that are written like this, but there's certainly a touch of uniqueness about this. This was published originally in 1937, this Virago edition published in 2004, and I have to say it's rather beautiful. Really, really gorgeous print here. And the book basically takes us through the life of her great grandparents and what her grandfather, George du Maurier, was like as a young boy and then a young man, and what the family's life was like in France. And then when they came over to England, I'd say they came over to England about two-thirds of the way into the book. So about the first two-thirds are set in France. And my only issue with this is that every now and then there are a couple of sentences in French, and I don't have the slightest idea what they mean. And that's a little bit irritating because it meant that I had to kind of Google things, and I didn't want to stop reading to Google. I wanted to just keep reading it. And obviously, in 1937, I wouldn't have had Google to hand, so unless I had a French dictionary, I wouldn't have really known what was going on. So that's kind of the only thing that I think makes this a little bit difficult. Maybe difficult's not the right word, but just every now and then it does kind of throw me a bit when there's a sentence in French and I've got no idea what's going on because I don't speak French. However, the rest of it is absolutely glorious. I feel like I truly know Ellen and her great grandfather and Louise and her grandfather and her grandfather's brother. It just really brings the family to life. And because it's written like a novel, it is so engaging. It is such a beautiful story that's very honest. I feel like certainly if somebody's writing a biography of their own family, they may be inclined to paint them in a much more golden light. But here, Du Maurier lays bare the various flaws of her family's characteristics, and certain characters are more flawed than others, and certain characters make more bad decisions than others. It feels very honest, and it means the characters are very believable. Now, definitely a lot of research into her family history has gone into this. It definitely brings the characters to life, and it makes me believe that she knows her family history inside out. There are probably times when things are embellished a little for the purpose of the novel because there are certain details that she probably has no way of knowing unless they kept exceptionally detailed diaries. But even then, certain things are perhaps created for the purpose of the story, which I think is okay. I certainly don't have a problem with that. And as I said, because it's written like a novel, it's so much more immersive. It really helps to bring the characters to life, and it definitely has Du Maurier's beautiful writing style all of the way through it. She has the most exquisite way with words. I first read, I think, The Parasites. The Parasites was the first of hers that I read, and it would have been in about 2013, I think. So about 10 years. For about 10 years, I've been reading Du Maurier, and I just absolutely no writer inspires me more than she does. No novelist, at any rate. Her writing is just so beautiful, and in the Du Mauriers, there is absolutely no exception. There is nobody more better placed to write about these characters than Daphne du Maurier, and she really helps to bring them to life, and in a way that's memorable and moving. I really felt like I knew these characters, like I was there with them. I really appreciate that she didn't just, make them come across as these wonderful, flawless people. She made sure they were written as very genuine and very real. This particular Virago book is very well published. You see there we have a foreword by the wonderful Michael Holroyd, and in terms of the print, it's pretty perfect, and I don't believe I spotted any typing errors. Although something else that kind of bugged me about this, just in the interest of having a more balanced opinion, every now and then there would be Du Maurier would use ellipsis, and it felt a little forced. And I didn't love that. But it wasn't abundant, it was just every now and then. But other than that, I found it to be pretty perfectly written. There were one or two sentence fragments, which I don't have an issue with, but it's quite unusual in this book. There are not many of them, so there's a tiny bit of style inconsistency, but really, I'm nitpicking to just, I guess, to try and prove that I can actually read this critically without just, hero worshipping Du Maurier, which I kind of do, You don't live 5 minutes from Cannon Hall for many years without learning to love her. I loved her before I moved to Hampstead. It was actually just a bit of a happy coincidence, actually. But it is a very beautiful read. If you're a fan of Daphne Du Maurier and you want to know more about where she came from and her background, her family, and what her family would like, this is perfect. I can't think of a better way to present these characters than in the Du Mauriers. It's also great, of course, if you're a fan of, Gerald Du Maurier or George Du Maurier and want to know more about their heritage. It's fabulous. I enjoyed every second of it. I would happily read it again, and it definitely is a must read for any fan of Daphne Du Maurier.